Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. It's the wantrepreneurs here back
again
for our Sunday recording. Thanks for watching. So for today's video,
we're gonna be talking about wantrepreneur versus entrepreneur. So last week we put in a poll regarding what you guys wanted to hear from us. So it was wantrepreneur versus entrepreneur or benefits of meditation.
Yep.
And the majority of people actually voted for wantrepreneur and entrepreneur. So that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah, before we get started, as usual, please subscribe to our channel. The link is down below, button is below. Leave a comment, like this video, and also if you have any suggestions, feel free to share them. Like us on Facebook, on Instagram, on all of our social media platforms, and it will help with our social media algorithm.
That's correct.
So yeah, we're gonna get started.
All right, let's start.
The first thing we're going to talk about is the definition of a wantrepreneur, and also the characteristics that a wantrepreneur mindset type of person has.
Yeah, so what is a wantrepreneur? So a wantrepreneur is a person who aspires to be an entrepreneur but never realizes that ambition. So that means that person never pulls through.
That's right. And characteristics that we can talk about are people who come up with ideas but not materializing or not pulling through with those ideas, and they just keep coming up with new ideas like, oh, maybe this is a good idea, maybe this is a good idea.
Yeah.
They see somebody across the street and they're like, oh, that looks like a good idea.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's like, oh, maybe I could do that too.
Yeah, and that's basically one of the characteristics that a wantrepreneur has.
Yeah.
They also change their mind constantly. So yeah, like again, just thinking that the next best thing is just around the corner. They think the grass is greener on the other side.
Yeah.
Just because they see it through other people doesn't necessarily mean it will be a successful business, but that's what they think majority of the time. They also lack perseverance. They also lack focus. So perseverance meaning that they don't endure for the long haul. They're more of like a short-term type of person.
So now I'll talk about what an entrepreneur is. So an entrepreneur is basically the opposite of the wantrepreneur. So that's the type of person who's willing to look at the long-term vision to materialize their ideas. So a lot of the times, many of the entrepreneurs, they're the one that actually changes the world. So we've seen this from, let's say an example would be Bill Gates, Warren Buffett. We look at
Dan Lok.
if you look at Dan Lok, look at Steve Jobs, all these high performers. Who else can you think of? There was another guy.
Mark Zuckerberg.
Mark Zuckerberg.
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk.
Sorry.
Elon Musk. So he's the type of person that an image of a very, very successful entrepreneur. He's the one that puts everything on the line so that he can change the world. So we've seen that with Elon Musk.
Elon Musk. Just kidding. So now we're going to be talking about why people are wantrepreneurs.
Yeah.
So the number one thing is
they don't see results right away. And if you're an entrepreneur, you have to realize that sometimes it takes longer than usual.
It does.
And most of the time too, when you're doing the same thing over and over again and you're not seeing any results or any changes, then it gets demotivating, if that's even a word. Unmotivating. So it gets very unmotivating when you do the same thing over and over again. You're grinding day and night and nothing's happening. So that's when a lot of people turn to just going back to the way it was before, where like, you know what, maybe I'll just stick to my 9-to-5 job because it's easier and there's not much challenge.
Yeah, it's true. And then they get content and complacent.
Yeah.
Right? So it's kind of like a cycle. Like if you try something but it doesn't work, then you just fall back.
Yeah.
And then it's just you just end up staying where you are.
Yeah, and it's kind of like for them, it's not going all in. Most of the time they have an idea, then they have a plan B. But for an entrepreneur, it's all basically all in. But for entrepreneurs, they only have a plan A, because for them, they think that no matter what happens, that's the only plan that they have. It's gonna work out. So most of the time, if you think about it, if you look at Google, you look at the definition of an entrepreneur, it means high risk taker. So that's what an entrepreneur is. So high risk for high reward.
Also, when it comes to entrepreneurs, like I said earlier in the last tip, was that they keep changing their minds when they see something. It's like the shiny object syndrome that we talked about in our last video, so you're going to check that out. They think that the grass is greener on the other side because they see success through others. So this happens to me a lot actually too. Like when I see people trying out different things like Airbnb or maybe real estate and stuff like that, then I'm thinking, oh, maybe I can do this too. But at the same time, I have two businesses that are totally unrelated that are doing successful, and then I'm getting sidetracked trying to see, oh, maybe if I venture into this, I can do well in it too because I'm successful in the businesses that I have now. So in the end, it's not a good thing to have the shiny object syndrome. You have to have focus and look at the long term of like your current ambition right now, and if you stay on the lane, then you're gonna be faster and you can succeed in better terms.
And if you think about it, so a lot of the entrepreneurs, they like the idea of new things or new ways of doing things because they're not seeing fast results of the current projects that they have. So for us, it's been, I think, a learning experience because we definitely experienced that. Camille experienced that, like what she said, and I definitely experienced that. We're like, okay, we're not seeing fast results, but we kind of put our mind where we're like, or we kind of put our our mindset where we're like, okay, even though we're not seeing the result fast, we're thinking that in the future it's gonna get a lot faster and faster because we already know how the process works. Because at the very beginning, when you become an entrepreneur, or even when you're a wantrepreneur, at the very beginning, you're completely kind of like blind. You don't have experience of how everything works. But once you do it once, you can replicate that same process or the same system to another business when you're gonna venture out on another thing, and you just replicate that on multiple businesses that you may have in the future.
Yeah, because it's technically all the same steps.
Yeah.
The only thing that you're changing is maybe the way you get clients or the way you make money.
The way you make money.
But the process is pretty much the same throughout. From beginning to
the end.
Yeah.
So what our recommendation would be is maybe stick to that one system first, that one process
that you know works.
So once you have that foundation, you're gonna be very well off because you already know how basically how that niche market that you're targeting works, and you just replicate that to another niche market that might be a little bit different. Then you just adapt to it.
So the last thing that we're going to talk about today is how to resolve being a wantrepreneur and to be actually an entrepreneur.
Become an entrepreneur. So number one thing that you guys have to do, if you guys are listening, this is what you guys want to do, right? Is basically execution, implementation. Because once you start doing things, it becomes completely a different game. Because that's what we noticed. We experienced that at the very beginning too, when we started our entrepreneurship journey. We noticed that we're like, okay, maybe we should watch people that are already successful and how they did things. We were watching Shark Tank. We were watching pretty much everything. We were just hoarding all this information, but nothing was materializing. We were just like, okay, it feels good to see people succeed. But once it came to actually us doing the work, and this was at the very early stage, we didn't want to do it because it was too hard. So we had to change our mindset. We had to change our mindset for that.
Yeah, and what kind of set us off into place was just finding that one thing that we were good at and then just pushing through and be like, okay, now we got our first client, we got our first review, and then that kind of kept the ball rolling. Yeah, just that one client. Changed everything, and now like we have a really good, successful business, which is amazing. You know what I mean? So the thing is, you have to get your foot through the door, and then you just have to, you know, roll with the punches, roll with the struggles that come along with entrepreneurship. You gotta find the right people
and find the right mentor, because at the very early stage of when we started entrepreneurship, there was no step-by-step guide that you could follow, because in our niche market we were doing the wedding industry, right? At the very beginning, stationery and how to start a business, because if you go search online, there's no way, you know, there's not a step-by-step guide on how to incorporate a business, start a stationery business, and find the suppliers, and etc., right? So we had to learn that ourselves. And through that experiences, we knew which worked and which doesn't. And to be honest, we made a lot of mistakes at the very beginning, because remember the time when we were doing
everything by
ourselves, and we thought that hey, in order for the quality to be very good, we have to do it ourselves. But instead, what we realized is we needed to outsource that to the people that have been doing it for 10-20 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's how we ended up doing the stationery business. And then also having a mindset is key too, and having the mindset that it's okay to fail, because when we were growing up, that we never were exposed to failure, because our parents would be like, oh, if you fail, that's bad. Like, it's just a negative thing to fail. But when they really should have embraced it and say like, okay, you failed, that's fine. What are you gonna do to learn from it for the next time? You know what I mean? So it's okay to fail. Like, that's part of the process. That's part of learning.
Part of the process, part of the learning experience. And to be honest, even in the school system, they grade you based on how well you're doing. And if you get an F or you get below 50%, so that's
you need help.
You need help. So they look down on you if you fail. So that kind of mentality, when you're growing up at a very early stage, it's already ingrained to you, right? So what we need to do as an entrepreneur, we gotta break through that mentality.
Yeah, exactly. And then also having expectations of it going to be easy, because you see people doing really well at it.
They make it look easy.
Yeah, they make it look easy. You guys don't know what's behind closed doors. You guys don't know what it took for them to get to that level. Especially like when you take, for example, Robert Herjavec, his backstory, right? About his mom buying a vacuum, like, and stuff like that, and he worked his butt off to make sure that he was successful, so that he would never have to experience that moment again.
That's right.
Or like Dan Locke, right? The way that he had to learn English, and the way that he had to like work his butt off through copywriting and all that stuff. Like, there's so many examples. But you gotta know that the expectation of it being easy is false. It's so difficult, so challenging, but it's also very rewarding. And when you're in it, then you learn to adjust anyway. It's kind of like a baby. You expect that, oh, you know, we're gonna plan for it, we're gonna get everything ready, we're gonna get all the baby stuff, all of the things that the baby needs. But once reality comes, the baby's crying and you don't know why, you freak out, right?
And there's no, like I said before, like a step-by-step guide on how to take care of your baby. The only thing that you have to do is adjust and adapt to the environment, because it's the same thing as with entrepreneurship. If you can adjust very quickly, you're gonna be very, very good. You're gonna do very well. Yeah,
that's why it's good to be open, and you know, anything that comes your way, just, you know, find a way to deal with it. Like any struggle.
It's basically, what I can even say is kind of like, it's troubleshooting. If this if this thing doesn't work, or this system doesn't work, then you try to figure out another kind of way to do it, and hope to see or find the answer, because there's always an answer to pretty much anything, a problem.
Right. And then also prioritizing. So when you're an entrepreneur, you gotta really take into account like what's important and what's urgent, and then you kind of figure out, okay, something might not necessarily be like important, like it won't help grow my business, but it may be urgent. Something that's urgent you can delegate to somebody else. Like, for example, an email, you know what I mean? So you gotta, as you grow as a business, you'll find out what things are more urgent and what things are important that will help you grow your business.
Yeah.
Anything to add to that? No? Okay.
That's it, yeah.
And then the last thing is to look at the long-term benefits. So yeah, if you're working a 9 to 5, you're just getting a paycheck month to month, right?
Yeah.
But are you really building an empire for your family? Are you making a name for yourself? You know, those are things that are important to us. It's not necessarily important to everybody.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm all about, you know, building an empire, making sure that I have an impact on the people I encounter with in business and in life and in friendships and, you know, relationships.
Yeah, and something to add to that too is just providing value
to
other people, because if we can provide value to other people, especially even us doing this kind of video, then for us that's very rewarding for sure, because just the things that we learned in the past, it's definitely pretty hard, and we didn't have the mentorship that, you know, that a lot of people have, where they pay thousands of dollars. What we had to do was we had to reach out to people on the internet, and from there be able to use the skills that they learned in the past and just basically transfer that knowledge to us, meaning that acquiring that knowledge, and once we kind of like understand that kind of knowledge, we implement it in our business, and if it doesn't work, we try another thing, and so on, right? So it's just a matter of, as an entrepreneur, you try to find a way, and if that information works for you, then what you could do is actually implement it in your business and see if it works. So it's troubleshooting, like what I said before, and if it does work, great, then you'll move on to the next level.
So yeah, again, look at the long-term benefits. What's important to you? What's important for, I guess, your name, your brand, your business? What do you see your business becoming in the future? Like, do you want it as a incorporation? Are you okay with it being, you know, small business, but, you know, popular within town? So that's all the things that you got to look forward to. And like, do you want to leave something for your kids too, if you have kids, right? If you have a family.
All right, guys, so hopefully you guys learned something new today. So that's the conclusion of this video. So the 3 things that we talked about today was wantrepreneur versus entrepreneur, the definition of it. We also talked about why people become a wantrepreneur, and it's because, you know, they're not seeing results fast enough and they get unmotivated. And the 3rd thing is how to resolve being a wantrepreneur to an entrepreneur, and that's through execution, implementation, through action, guys.
And looking at the long-term benefits.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, if you guys liked our video, please don't forget to like it. Please subscribe to our channel. Follow us on all of our social media platforms. We'd really appreciate it. Help us get up to the top.
Up to the top.
And if you guys have any suggestions for new videos, please bring them up to us, DM us, comment below. We'll send out another poll asking you about what you guys want to hear from us. And until then, anything else?
See you next week.
See you. Bye-bye.
See ya.